What's going on, and welcome back to another less than 5-minute gear review and setup. And in this video we're going to be talking about the Longship Designs Frag grenade pouch. Now when it comes down to it, this guy's going to cost you roughly about 28 to 30 bucks no matter what color or camo pattern that you go with. So that is kind of a nice thing about this compared to a lot of other products that are out there that will charge you extra for multicam, or for camo patterns in general. So that is a cool feature about this guy, or at least from what I've noticed from most of the dealers that are out there and distributors that are selling this. With that, before I get too far into it, this is just a dummy frag. It is not real. It's just plastic. You can completely take this thing apart and you can see that it's empty inside of there. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. But anyways, wanted to just articulate that just so that way you guys know that this isn't real, and then I don't get flagged from YouTube. So with that, anyways, when it comes down to this pouch compared to a lot of other pouches, I do want to give you guys a little bit of comparison and be able to show you why I prefer this frag pouch over a lot of the other ones that are out on the market. So here we have the Tier Tactical Frag pouch. Very simple, basic design, very similar to the military issued ones. The cool thing with these guys though is you do have these little tabs on the inside or pocket, or pass-throughs to be able to help retain your spoon. So that's one cool thing about the Tier Tactical ones. They have that spoon retainer. Top flap just closes on top, and then you can just buckle this up and you're good to go. It does take two molly straps or molly loops that you have to pass everything through to retain it, where this guy is only going to have one. So it does take up a little bit more space. It is quite a bit larger and wider, and you'll actually notice it when I throw this little dummy inside of this guy compared to the Tier Tactical one. Your Armory issued ones are very similar to this. Most of those have just a little snap on the front that will hold that top flap in place. I have seen a few here and there that have buckles, but not as common from what I remember. But with that, we also have the Cry Precision frag grenade pouch. This has some similar capabilities to the Longship designs, but they're not exactly the same. Backside, you do have the two molly straps again, so it is going to take up a little bit more space. But when it comes to kind of the setup of the pouch and everything, you do have a little bit of Velcro on the interior. I have seen guys throw some Velcro on this to help retain it. It's not necessary, but you can do it. With that, the frag will just drop right into the pouch. And then you have a couple of options actually when it comes to how you want to retain this. You can close the top flap and buckle everything up, and that will hold everything in place. Or you can also add an additional feature or just use the shock cord, and you can tighten all of this up, leave that flap open. I mean, airborne stuff, free fall, whatever, if you're running frags, as unlikely or likely as that may be, when it comes down to it, run that top flap for the airborne stuff, vehicle stuff that you may be doing. When you're on the ground, you could definitely open this up. And with that bungee cord system, you can just pull this straight out of the pouch, and then it will still retain the frag grenade when you're running around and maneuvering. But if you need a more rapid employment system, you can use just that elastic shock cord to help retain the frag in the pouch. With that though, when it comes to this guy, there is a lot more that you can do with it. You can run the top flap, or you can have it taken off and then just run the shock cord system and the elastic piece that runs around the frag grenade to retain it and hold it in place without really any concern of that frag coming out. So I'll show you how to set it up for both. The first one's already set up, as you can see, but I'll show you how to set this up with just the shock cord system. And then we'll go from there. So with that though, to kind of give you just a general overview real quick, when you get this straight out of the package, it is probably going to come configured to where you have your shock cord holding your top flap to the pouch itself, and then you'll have your little clasp or tension clamp, whatever they call these things, drawstring clamp, and then you'll have your shock cord that's tied off in a knot. On the back side, you'll have a malice clip and then just a single piece of laser cut molly, and then you'll have your elastic band that holds the grenade for the most part, and then you'll also have your front portion of the pouch with a little bit of Velcro. So when it comes to kind of the first configuration, and you can actually do a little bit more than just what I'm going to show you here, but for the top flap configuration, you'll just essentially leave it the way that it is. Pull that top flap over, adjust this bungee as much as you need to however tight or loose you want it, and that will retain the frag grenade itself. Now another thing you can do to kind of do a redundant system with this is you can take another piece of shock cord and another drawstring clamp system. You can run, like you see here, you can run the elastic shock cord through the back loop here, and then you can run it through the front. Make sure for this you run it on the inside of the spoon, and then pass that other end of the shock cord through the front, and then you'll take your additional little clamp, run that on the top, or connect all of this, run that clamp over it, and then tighten this down and tie off a knot on the end. The cool thing with that is if this flap ever comes off, you still have this elastic shock cord system that will hold the grenade in place, and then when you need to employ it, you just pull real hard and it comes right out. So that's one thing. If you want a redundant system, you can definitely do that as far as the setup and configuration of this pouch goes. Or you can just go with a single retention system to where you have either the flap or just the elastic system that you have here. My personal preference is to run just the elastic shock cord, so I'll show you how to do that because this actually only comes with one piece of shock cord right off the bat, or in the package when you get it. So when you get this, if you want to just run the single piece, you'll untie the knot, remove your clamp, remove the elastic shock cord, and then you'll have just your shock cord and your pouch itself. So you'll take your elastic shock cord, pass this through the back side, pass it through the front, and then take the other end, pass it through the other end or the other side, pull it through, and then you'll take your shock cord, equally distributing the ends, take your clamp, push that down, pass those two ends through, create your knot like so. And then just adjust your little clamp in the excess shock cord that you have, open up or wide enough to where you can pass the grenade through, and then you'll push your grenade down into the pouch. Now I would advise against running the spoon on the inside of the pouch because it can kind of just make it difficult to work with. But when you set this up, you'll pull that nice and tight, like so, and then you'll take your little drawstring clamp, pull that to the end, and that will hold and retain that frag inside of that pouch without any issues. And then when you need to employ it, you just simply pull this out like so, and it comes right out. But it does take a little bit of force. It isn't super easy. Like, it looks easy in the video, but you do have to pull on it pretty hard to get the thing to come out. Now, one other way that you can set this up if you have 550 cord or just a little bit of shock cord and you only have one clamp. So if you have extra shock cord from, you know, another pouch or whatever, you can take this, if you want to do the redundant system, you can pass this through above the shock cord that's running the retention, or the top portion of retention for the frag. You can run this through, add your top flap, and then what you'll do is you'll throw the frag inside the pouch, run the flap, run the bottom of the Velcro that's on the front of the flap to the bottom of the Velcro on the front of the pouch. Oops. Pull this through, and then what you'll do is you'll just pull all of this elastic nice and tight to where you want it exactly, to where it will retain the flap and have everything like nice in place, or nice and in place. And then you'll simply just run a knot. I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to run this on there, but you'll tie a knot in there, and then that will hold that top flap in place to where you can run both systems with only one little clamp on here. So that's the way that you can set these guys up. Very simple, very straightforward. It's a really, really nice pouch. One note that I will say when it comes down to it, and then I'll briefly just get into a little bit more of the construction piece so that you guys got a better idea of what this is. But it will come with this malice clip. I would recommend running the malice clip because it will give the pouch a little bit more structural integrity with whatever you're mounting this on, whether it's a belt system or a plate carrier. If you run the Whiskey 4-2 straps or the WTF straps, they work. However, because there isn't as much rigidity compared to the mouse clips, it will kind of like want to bend and pull your cummerbund or belt and all that stuff. So I would recommend running the mouse clips. It does give you a little bit more structural integrity and keeping everything in place and where you want it. With that though, just to give you kind of a last final once over, when it comes to all of it, it is kind of a PVC fabric material. Like I said, you got the Velcro on the front, or the loop Velcro. You got the hook Velcro on the inside of the flap. You also have this nice little bit of tactile PVC material that will enable or just make it a little bit easier to grab onto the front of the pouch and be able to open it up. And then you do have, roughly 3 inches of just elastic material that's going to hold the frag in place. You do get one piece of elastic shock cord with one clamp, and then the malice clip and the laser cut stuff on the back. Overall construction is awesome, no issues whatsoever. If you can, I would highly recommend try and get a little bit more shock cord so that way you can modify this pouch. So if you need to run a redundant system due to some organization policies to where you have to have certain types of pouches that have flaps and certain types of connectors and clamps and buckles and snaps and all that stuff, you can definitely do that as well. But I've never seen any issues with this from the videos that I've seen of guys running it, so I would say it's good to go, and I definitely highly recommend it, and it's definitely going to be my go-to from here on out. So with that, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. We'll help you out in any way that we can in answering those questions. And with that, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.